Welcome back to Stab the Dragon Productions for episode number 163. As tonight we're going to do another comparison between two bourbons. In December of 2023, episode 135, I did a taste comparison between Blanton's Gold and Iron Wolf Straight Bourbon coming out of Texas. This was a blind taste test, and I saw no difference visually between the two bourbons, but when the tasting was done, I had chosen Iron Wolf as the best, thinking it was the Blantons. Surprised much? High rye bourbons are my favorite, probably, and supposedly Blanton's has the higher rye mash bill for Buffalo Trace. A few months ago, a good friend who travels a lot for his job brought me a bottle of Tarnished Truth high rye bourbon from the Tarnished Truth distillery in Virginia Beach. I was very impressed with this bourbon, and it kind of reminded me of Blanton's with that high rye mash bill, so I'm going to test it against Blanton's. I'm out of the Iron Wolf, so I can't include that in the test. So first of all, let's look at Tarnished Truth. The story is in 2010, Andrew Yancey came up with the idea for Tarnished Truth and commenced starting a distillery. He built this distillery inside a 5-star Cavalier Hotel in Virginia Beach that opened in 2018. People in the restaurant can see part of the distillery in operation if they want to, I believe. And this is known as the only distillery in America that is part of a hotel. So, and the hotel is famous, by the way. I mean, they renovated it in 2018, but this hotel goes way back, over 100 years, I think. It was 5 presidents have stayed there, lots of movie stars and actors and whatnot. So it's got this theme on the bottle of 1920s, and so you see the older car there. You can kind of see the old hotel. So that's a pretty good concept. I like, what they're doing there. This bourbon has a mash bill, and the mash bill is printed on the bottle. 60% corn, 36% rye, 4% malted barley. It is aged for 3 years. So I like the openness and the clarity there. They include pretty much everything. So, plus, it's aged on the Atlantic coast. I mean, Virginia Beach is a beach, and the hotel is on the beach. You can see the water. So, again, similar to some scotches, you've got an ocean salt breeze effect, and that has an effect on the aging of whiskey. So the terroir, the climate, the land, the type of grains that are grown locally, all these things impact whiskey hugely. Here in Texas, Fort Worth, Texas whiskeys have a huge Texas impact, making them very different. Tarnished Truth is 90 proof. It's aged 3 years, like I said. The nosing on the website, they say it's got butterscotch, maple, and cinnamon. And then on the palate, it's got oak and honey, vanilla, cinnamon, cloves, and figs. Cost at the distillery, $49.99 for a 750 milliliter bottle. And so, usually distillery prices are a little bit more than you can get it at retail. But unfortunately, it's not available in Fort Worth that I can find, at least not in the big 3 stores that I look at, Specs and Total Wine and Goody Goody. So I don't think it's sold here in Texas at all. I don't know. And in this corner, we have Blanton's Gold, of course. From Frankfort, Kentucky, the Buffalo Trace Distillery. This whiskey is 103 proof, and it is the higher rye mash bill. But now that I've researched it a little bit, I hesitate to call it a high rye mash bill because you're looking at just 12 to 15% maybe. And so that's more than their number 1 mash bill, which has rye coming in below 10%. So this is it's not a high rye compared with like Tarnished Truth, but nonetheless it's known as the higher rye mash bill. On the nose, they say it's got rye spice, tobacco, caramel, honey, dark fruits, and the palate has all those notes plus vanilla. This is only a 700 milliliter bottle, and the price varies widely depending on where you get it. $85 to $230 are the price ranges that I have seen. And the funny thing about Blantons is it was developed, started in 1984 by Elmer T. Lee, who wanted to honor Mr. Blanton. And it's primarily marketed overseas, in Japan especially. I think Buffalo Trace is pretty much owned by the Japanese, or at least partially owned. So they get a lot of the Buffalo Trace products there. So that's the two competitors. Oh, the horseman. Yeah, mine is the guy who finished the race and he's waving at you, and it's the letter S. Each of the horsemen has a letter from the name Blantons, and mine is the letter S. Here's the box. Comes complete with a box, and there's a lot of Japanese on the tag here because my buddy was in Japan and picked this up for me. So both of these bourbons are furnished by my friend David, so thank you, David. All right, so on to the competition. We've looked a little bit at the history, not much. Well, Tarnished Truth has got a cool little history with the hotel there. That is pretty awesome. Blantons as a whiskey goes back further and is more storied, is more famous, and so I'm going to have to give the history to Blantons as well as the marketing in the bottle. I mean, it doesn't get any better than a Blantons bottle with the horseman on top. The Cavaliers, I don't know, racehorse jockeys. There you go, the jockey. That's probably what it's all about. So marketing, bottle, history all goes to Blantons. Looking at the visual effects here, it's hard to tell these apart. They're identical. And part of not part of the competition, but part of the fun is I'm going to guess which is which. So the Blantons has glass number 1 on the bottom, and Tarnished Truth has glass number 2 on the bottom, and I don't know which of these is which. So I get to try to guess that, but that's not part of the competition. The competition is strictly really over nose, taste, mouthfeel, finish. If there's a tie, then the tiebreaker goes to that which is more readily available. And with these two, neither of them is available locally. I've heard that there's a store in Fort Worth that sells Buffalo Trace products, and so I'm going to have to go there. It's a smaller store. I think it's an ABC store. So I've not been there. I've just heard rumors about it. So it might be available locally, but certainly not at the big three. All right, so now let's smell the glass on my left. A little bit of a whiskey smell. Sweetness. Very vague. My nose is inadequate for the task, particularly with bourbons. So just very little sweetness going on there. I'm going to say the one on my left has a little bit more of a nose. Maybe slight hint of tobacco. So I think this one's got a little bit more of a nose. The Blantons is the higher proof. I mean, we're talking 103 versus 90. So there's my first clue. So now let's go to taste. Getting some dark fruit, honey, char, some oak, almost a licorice. Well, that's nice. That's very nice, but I'm not really getting any cinnamon, but I'm going to say it's a little touch of vanilla. Okay, but I have no clue going off of that which is which. The Tarnished Truth bottle's new. I've had maybe 2 drinks from it. I very rarely pull out the Blantons. Alright, so the one on my right. Wow, there is a similarity between the two. Determining which is which may be impossible here. And determining which one I like better may be impossible. This one I'm getting a little bit of cherry on the finished. Wow. A little bit of cherry. I'm going to say this one's got the stronger finish. That may be the higher proof as well. This is going to be very difficult. But I've got initially what I was wanting to find out. Because when I opened the Tarnished Truth and David and I sipped it, it's like, that reminded me of Blantons. So now that I've got them side by side, I can definitely say the two are very similar. But somebody with a more refined palate who's consumed more Blantons than I have would probably be able to figure this out. I think this is the Tarnished Truth on my left. So that should be a number 2. I think this is the higher rye, higher proof. So I think that's the Blantons. So that should be number 1. Okay, so I'm saying Tarnished Truth and then Blantons. Number 2 and then number 1. Which one do I like the most? This is so difficult, but I think the one on the right has got a little bit more of a kick to it, a little bit longer finish. The tasting profiles are very similar. So this is almost a tie, but I'm going to say the one on my right is the winner, and I think that it's Blantons. So I'm going to raise this glass and see if it's a number 1 or number 2. It is, in fact, number 1, Blantons. Tarnished Truth is number 2. So Blantons for the win. And it was the mouthfeel and finish that gave it the edge. But the two are very similar. So if you are in the Virginia Beach area and you want something that is more reasonably priced and easier to find, at least in Virginia, I would say Tarnished Truth is a good Blanton substitute. And if you like Tarnished Truth, then you should like Blantons. But if you have a much more refined palate than I do and nose, you're going to probably be able to tell the difference between this and say, you're crazy. But I'm choosing Blantons tonight, but it was close. All right, next time we meet, I think I'll continue my Texas Rye Whiskey Tournament. And I'm not sure which competitors are up for that, but we will see you next time on Stab the Dragon. Out here.